I never told my son Ethan the full truth about my work. To him, I was just dad. The quiet guy who retired early after some boring middle management job in shipping, who lived in a modest 2-bedroom condo, drove a 15-year-old pickup truck, and spent weekends fixing things around the house. He never knew that the shipping company I helped start in a garage 30 years ago had grown into one of the largest private logistics empires in the world. He never knew that I owned a controlling stake worth north of $2 billion, or that half the container ships crossing the Pacific carried my company's logo on the side. I liked it that way. Money shouted. I preferred silence. Ethan grew up grounded, worked hard through college on scholarships and part-time jobs, and became a decent man without ever feeling entitled. That was my proudest achievement. When he called me 6 months ago, his voice bubbling with excitement, I could hear the hesitation underneath. Dad, Isabella's parents want to take us all on a family vacation to celebrate our engagement. 2 weeks on a private yacht in the Caribbean, then a week at their villa on Mustique. All expenses paid. They'd really like you to come. Isabella's parents, Victor and Claudia Langford, were old-money East Coast wealth. Private jets, multiple homes, the kind of people whose names appeared on museum wings. Ethan had warned me they were particular, but I could read between the lines. They were worried his working-class father would be out of place in their world. I told him I'd love to come. From the moment I stepped off the commercial flight in Barbados Economy Plus, of course, I could feel the appraisal. Victor, tall and silver-haired in linen and loafers, shook my hand with the brief, firm grip reserved for tradesmen. Claudia, dripping in discreet diamonds, offered a polite smile that never reached her eyes as she took in my faded khakis, worn deck shoes, and canvas duffel bag. Mr. Harlan, she said warmly, we're so glad you could join us. Ethan tells us you're happily retired. Very happily, I replied. Just a simple man these days. Victor chuckled. Nothing wrong with simple. They meant it as reassurance. I heard the relief. The yacht was breathtaking, 180 feet of gleaming white perfection, with a crew of 12, a helipad, and a submerged beach club that opened at the touch of a button. As we boarded, a steward took my battered duffel with the same expression someone might wear handling a bag of laundry. Over the first few days, the pattern established itself. At breakfast on the sky deck, Claudia would mention the cost of things in passing. The vintage champagne, only $800 a bottle, darling. The custom teak decking, the chef they'd flown in from Monaco. Victor talked about their friends, the tech billionaires, the European royalty, who'd chartered the same yacht the year before. I nodded along, sipping my coffee black from a plain mug while they used crystal stemware. When we anchored off a pristine quay for snorkeling, Victor insisted on paying for everything. Please, Jim, let us treat you. We know retirement budgets can be tight. I thanked him sincerely and accepted. At dinner one night, Claudia leaned over with maternal concern. Ethan mentioned you live in Florida now? Condo, isn't it? If you ever need recommendations for senior communities, we know some lovely gated ones. I smiled. That's kind of you. I'll manage. Victor raised his glass. To family, and to making sure everyone's comfortable. The subtext was clear. They were already planning how to insulate their daughter from my modest circumstances. The real test came midweek when we arrived at their villa on Mustique. Calling it a villa was like calling Everest a hill. 12 bedrooms, infinity pools cascading into the sea, staff quarters, a private beach. As we toured the grounds, Claudia walked beside me. You know, Jim, Victor and I were talking. We want Ethan and Isabella to have the best start possible. We've already put a substantial amount toward their future home in the Hamptons, and we've been thinking, perhaps we could help you as well. A little monthly supplement, just to take the pressure off. Victor nodded gravely. Nothing extravagant, maybe $5,000 or $6,000 a month. But it would free you from worrying about medical costs, that sort of thing. In exchange, we'd just ask that you give the young couple space to build their life without additional responsibilities. There it was, the polite bribe. Pay me to stay quietly in the background so I wouldn't embarrass their perfect world. Ethan, standing nearby, went pale. Isabella looked mortified but silent. I set my iced tea down carefully. That's very generous of you both, truly. But before I answer, may I ask, how much was this yacht charter for the 2 weeks? Victor blinked, surprised by the shift. About $650,000. Why? And the villa? Claudia answered proudly. We own it outright, of course, but similar properties rent for $200,000 a week in high season. I nodded slowly. So roughly $1 million for this vacation. That's quite a gesture. Victor smiled indulgently. When family is involved, money is just money. Exactly, I said quietly. That evening, as we prepared for dinner on the terrace, the weather turned. A sudden squall blew in. Tropical storms move fast in the Caribbean. The yacht captain radioed that a mechanical issue had developed with the main stabilizer while at anchor. Nothing dangerous, but repairs would take days. The Langfords' carefully planned itinerary was call. Unsung. Victor paced, furious, making increasingly desperate calls. The local repair facilities were booked solid. No helicopter could fly in the storm. We were stuck. Claudia wrung her hands. This is a disaster. The children were supposed to have the submarine tour tomorrow. I excused myself quietly and stepped into the study. Made one phone call. 20 minutes later, I returned to the terrace where everyone sat in tense silence. The repair crew will be here within the hour, I said. Victor looked skeptical. I just spoke to the captain. He said no one can get parts until next week. These people can... He frowned. Who exactly? I didn't answer directly. Instead, I poured myself a drink and waited. The sound of helicopters approached through the clearing storm. 3 of them, sleek black machines that landed smoothly on the villa's pad. Teams in professional uniforms disembarked with equipment cases. Within minutes, they were shuttling to the yacht via tender. Claudia stared. How? Victor pulled me aside. Jim, who are these people? My company's Rapid Response Maritime Team, I replied calmly. We keep units stationed throughout the Caribbean for clients. Your company? I finally told them. How I'd started with one second-hand truck making local deliveries. How I'd spotted the coming explosion in global shipping and built slowly, methodically, never taking outside investment. How today, Harlan Global Logistics moved 10% of all container cargo in the Western Hemisphere. How I personally owned 68% of the company. How the yacht they'd chartered. It belonged to my fleet. How the villa they were so proud of. I'd purchased the entire hillside development anonymously 20 years ago through a trust, then sold them this parcel at cost because I liked the architect. Victor sat down heavily. Claudia's face had gone white beneath her perfect makeup. Ethan just stared at me, mouth open. Why? He finally whispered. Why never tell me? Because I wanted you to become you, I said simply. Not an heir, not a target, just my son. I turned to Victor and Claudia. Your offer of $6,000 a month was touching. But let me make a counteroffer. I'll gift Ethan and Isabella this villa, free and clear. And I'll establish a trust that will ensure they'll never want for anything. But only on one condition. Claudia found her voice. What condition? That from this day forward you treat every person you meet, waiter, steward, stranger on the street, with the same respect you'd show someone you believe to be wealthy. Because you never really know who you're talking to. Victor started to protest, but something in my expression stopped him. The repair teams had the yacht running perfectly by morning. The vacation continued, but everything had changed. The Langfords were meticulously polite, almost painfully so. Isabella spent hours asking me about my life, really listening for the first time. Ethan and I had long talks on the beach, honest ones, about pride and love and what matters. When we finally parted at the airport, Victor shook my hand, properly this time, holding it a moment longer than necessary. Jim, he said quietly, I was wrong about you, about a lot of things. I nodded. We all make mistakes. What matters is what we do next. Claudia hugged me, actually hugged me, before boarding their jet. Ethan stayed behind a moment. Dad, I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything, son. Just remember, real wealth isn't in what you own. It's in who you are when no one's watching. He hugged me hard, the way he did when he was little. As I watched his plane take off, I picked up my old canvas duffel and headed toward economy check-in. The billionaire in khakis and deck shoes, going home to his modest condo. Some things, I decided, were worth more than all the yachts in the Caribbean. The quiet knowledge that I'd raised a good man, and that I'd never needed to prove anything to anyone. That was enough.